It's a blowout. 8th inning, 10-3. Bases are loaded for Verlander, who waits on a 3-0 pitch. He swings, and it's a high fly ball. Deep center field. It is gone. Home run. And a huge bat flip to celebrate. All right, Ben, start the show already.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into Flippin Bats with your host, Ben Verlander. We got another exciting one today. Of course, I'm going to go through my storylines, but we got Lance Lynn, World Series champion, current Chicago White Sox pitcher joining me. We got the voicemails where you guys can call in and ask me whatever you want to ask me, voice whatever you want to voice. And of course, my 6-tool player of the week. But I wanted to get into some storylines, and this one was a big one for me. I grew up watching the machine. Albert Pujols, a legend, and one of the biggest superstars the game has seen. I grew up watching him. I fell in love with the game of baseball watching Albert Pujols play. And I feel like what happened this week, he was released by the Angels. This is a big deal. And it wasn't talked about for more than like a day. And he's a legend. And he's arguably on his farewell tour. It's not confirmed, but it sure seems like it might be. And the Angels have parted ways with him. He's no longer on the big league team. So I wanted to bring in Jeff Fletcher, longtime beat writer for the Los Angeles Angels, to get his perspective. First off, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me, man. And I wanted to ask you a question. Take me through that day. Were you as surprised as the rest of the country, or did you know this was coming?
Well, I had no idea this was coming. I was stunned. I kind of figured that at some point, when Pujols was really performing badly, that they might kind of come up with some agreement where they, did like when A-Rod was done playing, and they said, all right, A-Rod is shifting into his advisor role, so basically they're going to keep paying him, but it was like a formal thing, and he got to have his farewell, and they said goodbye to everything. But just an unceremonious DFA, did not expect that at all.
So from an outsider's perspective, we were told that the team was thrown off and that Trout was pretty upset about it and was a little emotional. What was the team's reaction? Were players really upset about this?
Well, we don't talk to that many players anymore, unfortunately, and Mike Trout was definitely upset about it. I mean, he's the closest to Albert of anybody on the team. He'd been with him for his whole career, and he was certainly stunned. I'm sure everybody on the team had different reactions. I'm sure they didn't see it coming either, but it definitely shows this is tough business. I'm sure it was a reminder to all of them.
So we were kind of told that there was a front office thing with this, and Yarbrough was pitching the night before, and Albert had great numbers against Yarbrough. He wanted in. Joe Madden wanted to play him, but it came from the front office saying, we're not going to start Albert. He does not fit in. We don't want to play him. Where is the word that we heard correct?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of trying to piece together the tea leaves from what different people have said, and what it sounds like to me is that they really realized over a period of a couple weeks that they just weren't their best team with Albert Pujols out there. Not only was he not the best hitter they could put in that spot, but when they moved Jared Walsh to right field, then all of a sudden they're subpar defensively at first base and right field because he's not really a right fielder. So their better team is for Walsh to be playing first, and that doesn't really leave anything for Albert because obviously Ohtani is the DH all the time. So they came to this realization, and then they got to the point where just Albert wasn't going to play all the time, and I think that he wasn't interested in being a bench player. And when they decided that they were going to make this move with him, I think they told Joe Madden not to play him that day because they were going to make the move after the game. And I think that's what Albert was mostly upset about.
What do you think Joe Madden felt about this? Was he on board with it, or do you think he's pretty upset about this situation?
Well, I mean, he wants to win too, and I think that he probably wishes that they could have, had a better resolution to it. I'm sure he would have liked for Albert to just say, you're right, I'm not as good anymore, and I'm just going to retire, and thanks for everything, and they could have had a nice moment. I'm sure he didn't like to have to be in the middle of this thing, that came out kind of uncomfortable. But, I mean, he knows as well as anybody that it's clearly not their best team with Pujols playing first base and Jared Walsh playing right field. So, I think that it's just kind of a hard reality.
Yeah, So what is next for Albert Pujols?
Well, I don't know for sure. I think that probably some team is going to have an injury or something, and obviously he cost the major league minimum to just bring him in, and as maybe a little time passes, right now he thinks of himself as an everyday player. I think as he realizes that opportunity doesn't really exist, and maybe the Kansas City Royals or something say, hey, can you come in and play a couple times a week and mentor some of our young guys? And he grew up around Kansas City. Maybe something like that could happen. But I really don't see a team giving him an everyday opportunity, and I certainly don't see a National League team doing it. So I think the Cardinals thing that a lot of people want to see seems really hard to imagine. But I do believe we'll see him in another big league uniform at some point this year. I just don't know exactly when or who.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me for a few minutes. I really appreciate your time, and good luck with the Angels this year, and appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, Jeff, thanks again for joining me. I wanted to talk a little bit about Pujols from my perspective. And like we talked about, Pujols is a legend. And this is seemingly a farewell tour for him. I was mind blown. This is a huge deal. This guy's in the middle of his farewell tour, arguably, as a legend, and he's just gone. In the blink of an eye, the Angels are like, yeah, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for your time. We're done. And look, you're the one that signed him to this long of a deal. It goes both ways. Sometimes players do great on your deal and you're upset when it's done. And sometimes you sign a guy to too long of a deal and you just deal with it. He is a legend in the game, and it was super upsetting to me. It has been upsetting to watch a guy like him, his career average to dip below 300, and for his career to end like this. Look, it frustrated me, and that day, it seemed to be a big deal for a day, but this is a big deal, and it was an upsetting day to me. And I hope he gets picked up, and Jeff touched on it for a second. It'd be cool to see him go back to the Cardinals, but I just don't see a fit because it's an NL team. I would love to see him get picked up by an AL team with a chance and give him a few ABs throughout the year and let him go out the way he deserves to go out, because this isn't the way Albert Pujols deserves to go out. Another storyline from this week, no-hitters. We are seeing more no-hitters than ever. Wade Miley, over the weekend for the Cincinnati Reds, threw the fourth no-hitter of the season, absolutely dealt. But it led into another question for me, and Wade Miley's was the second of the week. John Means of the Orioles threw the first one against the Seattle Mariners, and then later in the week Wade Miley threw his. What's going on in the league with no-hitters, man? This is unbelievable. I start to think, like, is this good for baseball? Is this good for the game? I love no-hitters. I absolutely love no-hitters. My brother's thrown 3 of them. I have a soft spot in my heart for pitchers doing really cool things, and a no-hitter is a really cool thing. But we're seeing it so often right now. Is this good for baseball? No. No, it's not. A no-hitter is extremely exciting, but it seems like every other night we're being told, turn on the TV, a no-hitter. Turn on the TV, a no-hitter. And it's like every time that happens, and this is nothing against Wade Miley and John Means, the most recent guys to throw one. It seems like every time we're being told, turn on the TV, a no-hitter's happening, it gets less and less cool. It's like, of course one's being thrown. It's been a few nights since one has happened. A no-hitter is so difficult to do. And it seems like we're seeing more and more. And I wanted to dive in a little more to why we may be seeing more. And look, I don't have all the answers, but I have some ideas. You know, the baseball has changed. I think maybe that's playing a little role into it. But look, pitchers are more and more throwing harder and harder and harder. Pitchers are now regularly throwing 100 miles an hour, and the ones that do, it's moving like a slider. It's unbelievable, the stuff pitchers have right now. And then you start to look at the access that we're getting more and more into numbers, analytics, spin rate. If I do this with my finger, I get a lot more spin. If I do this, my velocity gets a little better. pitchers have more access to numbers than ever before. And not only just when it comes to themselves, but when it comes to the batter. If I know a certain batter is coming up to the plate, I've done my research, and so has my entire research department. I know exactly where to throw him. I know where his weak spot is. I know where to stay away from. And every year we get more and more and more information, and we learn, this is important, we learn as we get more numbers how to best use them, how to associate the numbers that we're getting and how to turn that into outs on the other end. And I feel like we're getting this culmination of pitchers throwing harder, their stuff moving more, as well as them getting more information on weaknesses from batters. And I think that's why we're starting to see these games where these dominant pitchers know exactly how to throw batters, and we're seeing no hitters. When I look online, I'm starting to see a lot of, this is happening because of launch angle. Launch angle's changing baseball, and that's why we're seeing these no-hitters, because hitters are just going up there and launch angle, launch angle. I want to explain to you guys why that is not true. I went to the hitting coach that is known to be the father of launch angle. His name is Craig Wallenbrock. Now, I want to explain to you guys, and for those of you that are watching this, I'm going to explain a little bit on camera here. I want to explain a little bit what launch angle is, because it's not where I'm going to swing straight up. That's what the misconception is. I'm going to swing up and try and hit a homer. Launch angle, in a nutshell, is just getting yourself in a good slot at the beginning of the swing and staying in it as long as possible. So you're getting into the slot early, you're staying in that slot through contact, and you're staying in it through as long as possible. And the goal is to get in the slot and stay through it, and hopefully when your swing reaches contact, we're catching the ball while our swing is naturally moving up and through the zone. That is launch angle. It's not, okay, I'm going to try and hit this ball out. Let me dip my shoulder and swing up. It's the opposite of that. It's putting your swing in a good position to have success and staying on this path the whole way through the swing. So when people talk about launch angle as being a factor in these no-hitters, I just totally disagree with that. And you know, I know what launch angle is. I personally think it's a bad terminology because it gives people the wrong idea. All we hear about is launch angle now, but it's not guys swinging up. And like I said, I think the big reason we're seeing no-hitters is all this access to numbers we're getting and pitchers learning more and more how to deal with that. So those are my storylines of the week. Pujols, a big one, and all these no-hitters happening, man. I love me a good no-hitter, but they are starting to happen a lot. But congratulations to Wade Miley and John Means this week on throwing no-hitters. Awesome stuff. So now I want to welcome in my guest of the week, World Series champion, the first of the pod, the first World Series champ, current pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, Lance Lynn. Lance, what is up, man? Thank you so much for joining me.
No problem, man. Everything's good. Thanks for having me.
So full disclosure, I was watching, I was like looking back at some video and saw your like 2000, did you know you have like a reel from 2017 post-game interviews, just where you were like screwing around with everybody? So I was watching that and didn't know if you knew that was a thing.
Yeah, I had some good fun there for a couple of years with people. They didn't know how to take it, so that made it fun for me for sure.
So I would imagine if I was in that position, like, one, the way baseball media has been portrayed for so long is annoying, kind of. Like, you come off of a good outing, great. You come off of a bad outing, and for the first question to be asked, what was it like giving up 3 homers? It's like, what do you want me to say? So I watched like the full video. It was like 30 minutes worth. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that's kind of my go-to. Whenever you have a good one, you don't talk about anything about yourself. Everything was about your team and all the nonsense you could. But when you had a bad one, you got to own it and move on.
Yeah. So you got to play in the Little League World Series, and a lot of people can relate to like a lot of people can relate to playing Little League Baseball. And I know personally, that's kind of the goal. Oh my God, I want to play in the Little League World Series. What was that like? 1999 Williamsport, what was the Little League World Series experience like?
Man, it was crazy because when you're growing up, Little League was cool. And then we had this central region. So it was like the last spot you would play to go to the Little League World Series, real close to where I grew up in Indianapolis. So we'd always go watch it when I was younger. And I think I was 11. I was sitting there with my dad and I was like, I'm going to do this next year. He's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then and then we did it. And then you see everybody playing on TV when you're a kid. You're like, I want to do that. That'd be cool. And I was like, so we had a good team. We were a really good team, and all the guys that we'd stayed together all the way through high school. So that was even more fun, and winning a state championship years later as seniors in high school. So we had a good run, and that was kind of goal from the get-go. And it was a weird thing to have when you're that young.
That's like the ultimate goal when you're that young. And then obviously you want to move on to college, so this is where I start to get jealous. I played at Old Dominion University, which great, D1 college, but even while we're at Old Dominion, it's like we look at SEC schools, and in particular Ole Miss, and it's like that's like the pinnacle of when you think of college baseball, of like fun places to play. So when you were there, was it still considered, like, did they have like that party going on in the outfield? Was it like a sick place to play?
Yeah, you were. So in left, you had where like I guess your non-students were, where it was a little bit more, they were just kind of grilling out. But right where the students were, it was beer showers, doing all their thing, having a good old time. And I remember leaving college and going to the minor leagues. I was like, man, it was way more fun playing in college. I don't know what I was doing going and leaving. But Ole Miss did a heck of a job. He putting together a good atmosphere for college baseball, that's for sure, and college football. You can't beat the Grove down there on SEC football Saturdays.
What's your best college memory then?
Oh man, there's too many to go directly to. But when you look at, the first time I stepped on campus, I was on a recruiting trip where Ole Miss was playing, I think, Auburn, when they had Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown and those guys back in the day. And I was like, man, this is cool. This is a little different. And then you go down there and you see guys like Tim Tebow coming through and playing again, and watching them play on the field when you're in college was neat.
That's sick. So why the number 31? You've worn that most of your career. Why 31?
So when I was in St. Louis, I came up in 11. I was 62. So just so you know, 62 is a terrible number to have on a World Series ring, but at least I have a ring, so I'll take it. But the next year I show up to spring training, or a week before spring training, like, hey, we got to get you out at 62. And I go, what do you have in the 30s? And they told me a couple, and I was like, man, I don't know about that. And they're like, 31's available. I was like, perfect. Let's just cut 62 and a half and go.
Oh, cut 62 and a half.
Is that simple? I was like, that works for me for now. And then now I'm 33, which was my college number. And as my older brother wore that growing up his whole life and all that. So I kind of wore it for him this year here on the South Side.
That's sick. So also I wanted to take note of the fact that Lance Lynn is currently doing this interview like in a little dungeon down underneath the stadium. It's an off day. So one, thank you for joining us on an off day, but also this little area they've made for you for COVID is cracking me up. But
yeah, we got our single sitting serving cubicles for lunch right here in the hallway, but we're boarded up so nobody can get to us.
Good. That's good. So in your first full year in the big leagues, you accomplished a lot. Big League All-Star, you won a World Series. So as a player growing up, thinking of myself personally and getting drafted is the goal. Then it becomes making the big leagues. Then it becomes like becoming an All-Star and a World Series champion. The only one of those like 5 things I listed that I did was getting drafted late as hell. So I can't experience. I have no way to relate. What is it like once you've done that so early on in your career? Like, what does your mind go to? What do your goals sort of shift to once you've become an All-Star, your first full season, you win a World Series, and your first ever season? What do your goals shift to from there?
Heck, after that, it was like, well, I've already accomplished all this. Now I just can't get sent down, or it was all for nothing. So it was like, all right, get to 3 years, and then it was get to 6 years, and then this year might get to 10 is the plan. So it was just one step at a time, and I got lucky early on to have, the All-Star game in the World Series that early. And you don't realize what you're doing because you're so young. And then when you look at it back now, I'm 33. It's been 10 years. It's like, man, I need to do that again. That was I need to experience that again. So that's where I'm at now. I'm getting to 10 years this year. I need to get back to a World Series and give it another go.
So I actually noticed, I feel like this is going to be I feel like this year's special for you. 33, you were in 33 now. On June 2nd, that is your 10-year mark in the big leagues, which one is a big milestone in itself, but also means a lot for your future. All that stuff kicks in. Is there anything planned for your 10-year on June 2nd? Do you have, it's a cool moment.
No, I agree. I think right now we're in the situation where we got all the protocols and we gotta abide by all that stuff. So I'm gonna see where all that's at and doing all that. But it's on the calendar. We got it marked. Family, wife, and kids. We're trying to make sure we got everybody there for us so we can enjoy it together. That's
sick, man. So I want to take you back a little bit to what I consider the best World Series game in history, which you got to pitch in. What was that game like? 2011 World Series, Game 6, Cardinals, Rangers. You pitched. I think it was the 8th inning. So what was it like participating in that game and then also having to wake up that next day and go right back at it?
So you always go back. Everybody talks about it because it's epic game, right? So I was in line to get the loss after giving up back-to-back jacks, I think in the 7th or 8th inning right there, like you said. So I was sitting there in the dugout clubhouse when we tied it. And I was like, oh, shit, they got me off the hook. Now we got a chance. And then I was like, man, I didn't blow it for us. They picking me up. So, I mean, David's yet to thank me for that pretty much catapulted me in an MVP of the World Series because I gave him the chance to do all that coming back. But no, it was I was 24. I felt like I just ruined the World Series for everyone. And then we come back and it was an awesome comeback win. And then next night, Tony put me back in there in the 8th inning and I was able to get through the side 3 of 3 down and we were able to win. So it was a crazy 24 plus hours there for me where I thought I was the worst pitcher in the world to next night celebrating a World Series and I was back in there too. So it was cool.
I've always said that. I've always been saying this. David Freese owes you for his MVP. Duh. That's incredible. So you actually, like you said, you struggled in Game 6. And then were you surprised coming right back out that next day and saying, hey, you're getting the ball back, we're going to win this thing? Or was it kind of you know what, I asked him for were you surprised to get the nod?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at I was a rookie, you're coming back after giving up back-to-back homers the night before, and then I think Tony put me in a situation where I was facing I think Michael Young, Josh Hamilton, and it was a middle of the lineup, and I was like, what is he doing? I'm getting loose. I'm like, all right, hell, you can't be worse than last night, so just let it fly. That was my thought process. It's like, go out there and just let it fly, and who cares? And then Tony, still to this day, was like, oh, you're going back in there. He goes, you had no fear, so I wasn't worried about it. And he goes, people looked at me like I was crazy, but I had he goes, I had no fear in putting you back out there whatsoever.
So that year in 2011, you played for Tony La Russa, and it's kind of come full circle. He was out of baseball for a while. You're now a vet as opposed to not even being an official rookie at the time. I feel like when Tony signed in Chicago to be the manager of the White Sox, it was kind of surprising to a lot of people. What has it been like having him now as a manager? And do you think, I mean, obviously you feel like it was the right fit, but what is it like having him now so many years later?
I mean, it's kind of crazy when you look back at that was your first manager in the big leagues when you came up. When you got drafted by the Cardinals, he was the manager when I was coming up to the minor leagues. So he got to know me pretty well, and I got to know him. And then you look back, you're 10 years later, he's been out of the game, but he's a Hall of Famer now. I was like, Tony, what are you doing? He goes, I still want to win. I still have the itch. I still have the desire to do all of it. And I was like, good, so do I. That's why I'm still here. Let's do this thing. So it's been exciting. It's obviously, a little different with, the time off and all that for him, but, he's jumped right back into it. He's still the same guy. All he cares about is winning, doing your job and making sure you're there for your teammates. And he's never changed, even though he's been out of the game for 10 years, or well, not in the dugout for 10 years. He's never left the game because I don't think he can.
So I wanted to get into you personally a little bit, you pitching, because baseball's kind of evolved over the last, I don't know, 5 years with the way pitchers go about it. And you were a guy that's always relied on your heater, but it seemed like baseball for a while became like sink it and cut it and sink it and cut it and, sink into righties, cut it away, and you became that guy. You could do that. But now it's almost like baseball's back to the heater, the good old four-seamer, up in the zone, totally different. How have you had to evolve as a pitcher?
It was crazy when I was growing up, and when I was in college at Ole Miss, it was four-seamer up and curveball. So that's what I could throw a little two-seamer, nothing crazy. And I got drafted by the Cardinals, who were known for sinker, especially the sinker ball back then with Dave Duncan and all that. So it was one of those things where you had to learn it, and quick outs, small pitch counts. That's what they're all about, getting the game moving. So I learned that, and then it's all kind of just able to morph it all into what I can do well, and use those things that I learned along the way to make me a pitcher that doesn't have the the big breaking ball or all that stuff. It's kind of a that cute thing that everybody does now. So I figured a long time ago I wasn't cute enough to do that. So let's just be good at what I'm good at, and let's just ride it out here.
You're very cute, Lance. Don't give your don't. So am I right? Like, obviously you have evolved as a pitcher, but has baseball evolved in the last 5 years? I feel like, I obviously have watched my brother a ton, or, I would try and watch every start of his, and it almost seems like his resurgence and his success, over the last couple of years has been credited to the heater up. And that wasn't like, for a while, that was like a taboo thing. So have you changed the way you pitched, or is it also like a league-wide, like cultural change in the way pitchers are going about attacking batters?
So I think it's definitely a league-wide thing. Guys, that's all they work on now. So I think that we're going to run into a little thing here moving forward, is when hitters start covering that really well, and then you don't have anything else, because that's where we got it. Everybody started covering the sinker and the cutter, and then we went to the four seam up. And I think you're going to see the next phase is guys that are able to do both. And I'm hoping that I can stay around long enough to do both and have success, deep into my 30s. But if you have the ability to throw up, you've always had it. But that was just kind of those things that you were told not to do. They were like, oh, I know you got away with it. It was back then. It was getting away with it. You got away with one up. But now it's like, no, I'm blowing him away. I've always been able to do that, but I was told that was a bad idea. And heck, if I would have just kind of did what I did growing up when I first came, I had strikeouts up there early in my career. But we wanted the ball in play. We wanted quick outs. The strikeout wasn't as big as it is now. So it's just kind of the way the game evolves, and it kind of goes in cycles. But I think it might come back to where you got to be able to pitch up, you got to be able to pitch in and out, and be able to move around all four corners of the strike zone with it too. Yeah,
I do feel like hitters are going to adjust as well. And I remember, so my brother was kind of one that started the fastball up. He kind of was on the trend early, because I remember talking to him, and he's had really good success against Trout in his career. And I remember talking to him about facing Trout, and he was like, yeah, his, where you have to get him out is up and in. He hits everything low, everything down. He crushes. So that was his thing. And it's almost like, I feel like watching him, that is no longer a hole of his. So I think hitters are going to evolve as well. But what is it like facing Trout? And is that a hole of his anymore? Or is that like, there's really nowhere to go with him?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at one of the the best hitters of all time. He's going to make that adjustment. He's going to start getting to things that are not his strengths, because that's who he is. He's gonna make those weaknesses turn into something that he can cover. I think that's one of those things that, like we were talking about, they're going to make the adjustment. So pitchers have to keep making the adjustment along the way. and you have to do what you got to do. But like you said, when you're facing Mike Trout, it's not a comfortable at bat. That's for darn sure. But you got to make your pitches, and you can't just live in one place to anybody, and especially to him.
I feel like everyone in their career ends up with like this not obscure, but some player that you wouldn't expect to like rake against you, or like is always a tough at bat for you. Who's your guy?
Man, I'm trying to. I had, when I was in St. Louis, the Joey Votto and Jay Bruce combination was just absolute torture for me. They absolutely crushed my sinker, and then they would take ball one, take ball two away, and I was like, all right, I gotta try to get in the strike zone and whack. So those two, especially together on the same team, were tough for me early on in my career until I learned how to, manipulate the cutter in to them and be able to use the sinker on both sides, and then started, getting ahead of them and having a little bit of success. But they've got good numbers on me. And then I think Castro, he's still he's with Washington. He was with Chicago early on there forever. It's like every pitch I threw, it just was a knock. I don't understand it. I could throw him any pitch I had, and he would hit it for a hit. But he was hitting he had 200 hits a year though. So like when you look back on it, it didn't feel that bad. But it was like, man, I'm making good pitches, but everything's a hit to you, and I don't like it.
Well, look, I'm not here to make you to talk about your struggles. I'm here to make you look good. What's the reverse? Who's somebody that you like always get out?
Oh man, you put somebody like that, you start doing that, and the next thing I know, I face them and they go off on me. That's like the worst thing.
Yeah. We won't even talk about it.
You don't even want to. The way I approach everything is they're hitting 1,000 off me. It's about time they get out. It doesn't matter who it is in the box.
Speaking of guys you have faced, I am like obsessed with the career that was Josh Hamilton. I think for like a very brief period of time, he's one of the greatest athletes we've seen in baseball. It was absolutely remarkable what he did in his career. And you got to face him. And you got to face him when he was like in that prime. What was the game plan going into a game, getting ready to face a guy like him?
Man, it was like, well, first of all, you know how going into a game, it's like, this guy's not going to beat me. So if I get behind, I'm not even going to give him anything to hit. But you're talking about a guy that he could cover anything on both sides of the plate and do damage to all fields. And it was just, and it didn't even look like he was really trying. It was like he was just, all right, I'm in the box, I'm here, and I dare you to throw something that I could put a barrel on because I'm going to blast it. So that when you're looking at a hitter and he just looks like he's going to own you, it's like, especially I was young too, so I was like, this dude looks like he's all over whatever I'm going to throw. I don't like it. But that's how locked in he was, and that's how easy the game was. And that's kind of like we're talking about with Trout. The game's slow to certain guys, and it was definitely really slow to him in that time where he was special, man.
You mentioned being locked in, and I feel like personally of anybody, you get like locked in. Like you get so locked in. I was watching a spring training start of yours this year. You were yelling at umpires. It was awesome. I love it personally. It's almost like, and I've heard you say before, you feel like you need to get angry. And is that something you need to like get yourself to? Is that a place you need to get yourself to? We had Tyler Glasnow on in a previous episode, and he had to like go into like Pharma Bro to get himself angry and all that stuff. Like where is that something that come naturally to you when you're on the mound?
Yeah, the anger kind of comes naturally, and it's the crazy thing is it's more at myself when I like make a pitch that I shouldn't, or I try to. It's just one of those things where it's like, all right, you're being an idiot right now, and then it's just like I'm not I'm not a guy that boosts myself up with talk. I'm like, hey, it's time for you to stop being a dumbass. There's no other way to say it, and then it kind of trickles over, and it just gets myself fired up. But I mean, early on in my career, it was one of those things where I would get too fired up and stuff would start going all over the place. So it was definitely a fine line. And then the older I've gotten here, I'm able to control it in a sense where I'm using it for the good of myself and not, just getting pissed and trying to throw the ball by everybody.
It also seems like it's something where, you've had an extremely successful career and you're obviously a good pitcher. So it's like you get yourself there, and it's like, oh, this guy goes after it. He's tough on the mound, and it's like if a rookie came up and is like acting like a badass on the mound and then gives up like 6 runs, it's like, this guy has issues. Like, I don't know if you can pitch like this.
Oh yeah, early on in my career, I was wore my emotions on my sleeve too much. I had bad mound presence, bad attitude, and all that. And then you start pitching a little better, and all of a sudden you turn into a bulldog, fierce competitor. It's crazy how that works.
So I have something that I ask, a few different questions that I ask everybody that comes on. And there's obviously, especially with COVID right now, a lot of like rule changes going on. If you were commissioner for a day, what is one rule in baseball, not just COVID related, that you would change?
Oh man, so I've never actually been asked that. I know that you get asked about all the new rule changes. What do you think and all that? Oh man, I'm a traditional starting pitcher guy. So you're talking about my whole life. When I watched a baseball game, I wanted to know who was starting, and I wanted to see who was going to last longer and who was going to be, when you look at the end of the night, who was going to be the man. So I hope we get back to those days. I don't know if we will full-fledged where it's like, hey, where everybody's going 110 pitches against each other, but I think that they're trying to get that back. And I mean, I think that brings the excitement back to the game. It's, you go to the ballpark to see who's starting against who. Like, you look at Shohei Ohtani, people are coming to see him start. He's building back in after being off and stuff. But it's exciting to see those guys in the 7th, 8th inning working against the lineup third time through, to actually see the cat and mouse, watch them work. I hope. I mean, that's not a rule change, but that's just the old.
No, yeah.
I guess I'm the old guy now that likes the old stuff. You versus me, for let's see who's gonna last the longest, and then we'll go have a beer afterwards.
So recently in baseball, there was a no-hitter, but it was 7 innings. So I wanted to get your opinion on that, because I have my opinions, and I was watching it happen. Madison Bumgarner threw 7-inning complete game, 0 hits, but it does not count as a no-hitter. And I was watching, and it almost seemed like nobody knew what to do. Like, Bumgarner was kind of like, yeah, this is cool. The team kind of gave like a half-assed celebration. What are your thoughts on it? 1, as a pitcher, and 2, do you think it should count as a no-hitter?
So we were talking about this today, actually. It's a game that is scheduled for that amount of innings, and that's the case. We went over today. The starters that here today were saying it's a no hitter, but if it's a rain shortened 7 innings or something like that, it's not. So it's one of those things. If it's on the scheduled for 7, and you throw a no hitter, you didn't give up a hit, it's a no hitter. Yeah, but that's kind of the fine line there. So it's a tough one, but I think if it's on the schedule for 7 and you do it, you did it. But I also don't like the double headers, 7 innings, but it is nice when you have to do them.
Right. It's so, like, I remember, I played in the Florida State League, and there's a million right now. So it gets brutal. So you start, it's like, 1, the games are annoying, but it's like you wake up and it's like, oh, we got a double header. Oh, wait, it's only 7 innings each game. That definitely helps them. So my opinion on it here is that, look, it's going to go down in the record books. Not that complete games like are, super talked about, but they're cool. This is going to go down as a complete game. So my whole thing is, if it's going to count as an official complete game in the record book, I feel like it needs to count as an official no-hitter. And it's either got to be one way or the other. It can't count as a complete game and not a no-hitter. It's got to be one way or the other, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that. I didn't even think about it that way, but that's, 100% there. If that's what I'm saying. If it's on the schedule and that's what you're supposed to play, then that's what it is, in my opinion.
So if you were on the mound and you get through 7 no-hit innings, because I have the vision in my head of him throwing 7 no-hit innings and him just being like kind of like smiling. Are you like, would you have been pumped, or would you have been like pissed off? Like, I need to go 2 more innings. Like, where would your mindset have been?
I think for me as the you were talking about the old school thing, it's like, man, I need 2 more innings right now. Let's just keep going and see where this takes us. But if the game's over and it didn't give up a hit, it's like I did my job the best I possibly could today. So that's what when you take the mound, that's all you're trying to do. So I would celebrate it as one hell of a game. That's for sure. But it's obviously not going to be a no-hitter. But you take the complete game, and I didn't give up a hit. That's the way I take it.
Yeah. So one big discussion we have on this show is the face of Major League Baseball. Who is the face of Major League Baseball? We talk about it a lot. I have my opinion. My producer has another opinion. I want to ask you, who right now is the face of Major League Baseball?
Man, if you'd have asked me a year ago, it's a no-doubter, in my opinion, and that was Trout. And I've played with guys that, make a case for it. And now you're looking at, what Mookie Betts is doing. And then Fernando Tatis is starting to do things and is doing things as a young player that is saying he definitely has thrown his cap in and said, I'm here, boys. I'm coming for everybody. So there's so many good players, but when you look at those 3 right there, I don't think anyone's dethroned Trout yet, but there's some guys that are definitely making it interesting.
Let me tell you how little you just helped our argument. The argument has been him picking Mookie Betts the whole time, me saying it's actually no one right now, but I think Fernando Tatis is emerging as the face of baseball. And obviously Trout is always in the discussion. My opinion is just that he doesn't want to be that guy. He's not not that the other guys are flashy. He's just not like, he's not the same kind of player they are. I do think he's the best player in the world. But yeah, so our argument this whole time has been between Trout, Mookie, and Tatis. So thank you for all your help.
Anytime I can not help at all, I will.
All right. So some recurring questions we ask all of our guests. It's a career moments segment. So I have 3 questions for you. Career moments. First one, what was your welcome to the MLB moment?
Oh man, welcome to the MLB. I would say, well, as a player on the field, I threw first pitch strike. So you're just like, okay, cool. And then I threw 3 straight balls, and I was like, and then to get to a full count, I gave up a foul homer. I was like, this is not going well. And then I got an out. So I was like, all right, we're cool. I can say I made it. That was my thought. But and then you also have the veteran guys in St. Louis really taking care of it. And, you get your suit. That was kind of like your, hey, welcome to the big leagues, kid. You got a suit now. Now wear it and look professional.
What was your most memorable play on the field?
Oh man, I mean, for me, when you go back to the World Series in 11, the home run that David hit was obviously the most memorable. But for me personally, oh man, I don't have it. Everything kind of starts rolling together the more you play here. But as a guy on a team, that when David hit that home run, that was, and it's still one of those things where you don't forget it.
Well, it is personal because it would never have happened if it wasn't for you, as you said. Who should have been?
If I wouldn't have gave up a couple homers, David wouldn't be the hero he is in St. Louis.
So you should be MVP of the 2011 World Series, which in my mind I've always said you are. And the last career moment, a moment that stands out to you with teammates that took place off the field.
We had. So it's easy because it's always about golf as a pitcher, right? So we were in San Francisco. We went down to play Cypress Point down in Pebble, and it was myself, Jake Westbrook, and Adam Wainwright, and we rented a car, and we spent we did a whole day playing a course that we'll never be able to get back on again. I only got on because of who they were. But that was like one of those things where this was cool then, but they really, those two, Kyle Loesch and Chris Carpenter really took care of me in my days in St. Louis. So, those times with those guys were pretty cool.
I very well know the experience of getting to play that course, not because of you, but who you're playing with. I got to play it last year with my brother and a couple other people in the group. So I would be remiss without asking you what you did on the par 3. What is it? 15th. It's like 240 yards across the water. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, when you got to go 3-wood to get over.
It's driver off the tee, basically.
What are we doing right here? I was like, all right, I gotta kind of hood this iron. I think I went 3 iron, and I pulled it left of the green, and I just barely kept it on.
So you were safe
from
though.
rolling down.
I feel like that's the goal.
I was chipping greenside.
There you go. So one question I ask everybody as well is, what is one experience from the minor leagues? Because I played minor league baseball, so I relate to it, and I know how important it is to baseball because it's very unique. Not, in other sports, people don't have to grind through a minor league sort of experience. So everybody's sort of gone through it. What is one experience you took from the minor leagues that you take with you to this day?
I think the biggest thing is when you get to the major leagues and realize how blessed you are to be here, and then you look back at all the stuff you went through, and the relationships you build on bus trips for 8 to 12 hours and things like that are pretty cool. But it also makes you really understand of how special it is to get here, and how much you, as much as you enjoy the process of. Well, no one enjoyed the process of coming up to the minor leagues. They're like, get me out of here as fast as you can and get me to the big leagues. But it made you really, really understand and be grateful for being in the major leagues. So all the bus trips and all the, late bus rides to the middle of the night. It's like, man, the bus drivers around the world are special people to be able to do the things they do driving through the night. That's for sure.
Well, you got there, man. And all those bus trips led to a pretty damn good almost 10-year career. And congratulations on coming up on 10 years this year. I'm really excited for you. Congratulations on that. And thank you so much for joining me. It was a blast. Come back on whenever you want, man. I'd love to have you.
No, I appreciate it. Hopefully when I get to 10 years, I can get the bike I was driving around in Batavia, New York when I first signed. Maybe I can get that. That'll be a nice little gift, but I don't think it exists anymore.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way, dude.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Wait, what is this? I should have asked you, but what is this bike story?
No, so when I signed it in Batavia, New York, that was a 39th pick. So I had $20 to my name when I signed. And so I got to Batavia, New York, and I was able to get a bike because you didn't have a car. And we were staying at a host family's house. Yeah. So there was three of us in a host house where it was like one bedroom with a giant closet with two full beds in it. That's the way we were. That was my first month in the minor leagues. So the only way everybody was on bikes. Every person on the team was biking around Batavia, New York. We would go to a local deli to get a 12-inch sub, and we'd eat half before the game, half after. That was what we did. And
the thought of you riding around this bike. I've eaten at that Denny's in Batavia. Batavia is a dump, by the way. So to envision you riding around on your little bike in Batavia.
Oh yeah, I went from Oxford, Mississippi to Batavia, New York, and I was like, I'm going back. I called the front office like, I need to go back to college. This is not it. This is not where I'm at. And then the next week I was in Quad City, so I was like, all right, cool. But I gave my bike away and never saw it again.
We got to get you that bike, dude. All right, man. I'll let you go.
I think it was like orange too. It was not a pretty bike.
Well, enjoy your off day, dude. Thank you so much for joining me.
I appreciate it.
All right, Lance Lynn, thank you so much for joining me. That was awesome. Good luck the rest of the way. But now, for one of my favorite parts of the show, the hotline. Make sure you're getting those calls in. Voice your displeasure with your team. Ask me any question you want. Get those calls in. 213-537-9339. So you can be part of this show. It's one of my favorite parts, so keep getting those calls in. So Rick, hit me with that first one.
Hi, Ben. Huge fans. I listen to your podcast every day. Just wanted to get your opinion on Jacob deGrom's minor injury and how he's been hitting, not so much pitching because that's always amazing, just how he's batting, and your thoughts on the Mets start to the season, except Lindor because that's trash. Thank you so much. Hope to hear my voice on the podcast. Bye.
Thank you so much for the question. So Look, you say minor injury with Jacob deGrom, and I hope that's the case. And it's, you know, it looks that way out on the mound. He's still electric. But this isn't the first time we've seen a little something flare up with him. And every time you start talking about the best pitcher in the game getting MRI after MRI, trying to figure out what is going on, it's never really minor, in my opinion. I'm a little worried about him. And this isn't the first start. We saw him remove himself from the game over the weekend after throwing 5 innings, comes back out, goes out for his warm-up tosses, and calls them out and says, I'm hurt. I can't do this. And he was removed from the game. And, you know, he's missed some stuff this year, some time with something. There's something going on. And that's scary in itself. Whatever is happening isn't just a minor issue that we should brush over, because there is something going on. And Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. So I am a little worried about Jacob deGrom, if I'm being totally honest. And I hope it's something minor, but this is a theme we're starting to see of there's something going on. So I am worried. But the Mets are playing good baseball now. The Mets are starting to play really good baseball. And you also asked on my thoughts about the Mets. Look, it already seems like this team starts and goes and stops and with Francisco Lindor. This is their guy. He's their shortstop of the future. And he was struggling big time. And we started to see him heat up over the weekend. He had a good weekend, and the Mets are rolling right now. They've won a few games in a row. They're starting to turn around. They're in first place in the NL East, which is a great division. Look, the records aren't great in the NL East, but everybody's beating up on each other. They're all good teams. The Mets are playing well. And I like them. I like the Mets this year, and I really hope Francisco Lindor continues to improve and get away from that slow start he had. So, Rick, hit me with number 2.
Hey, Ben, this is Nick from Connecticut, born and raised in New England, diehard Red Sox fan. I know it's only a matter of time that Red Sox lineup starts to cool off and that Yankee lineup starts to warm back up. But I'm looking forward. I'm looking at the trade deadline already, thinking if we're still in the hunt, who might be a position or a player you're thinking the Sox could go after. I'm looking at maybe Tyler Glasnow. How about that starting pitching? Or maybe Josh Hader if somehow the Brewers start cooling off and they're getting afraid of, maybe trying to get some young arms, help out that back end of our rotation. What are you thinking? I'd love to hear it. Go Sox.
All right. First off, Nate, thank you for the question. Great question. But one takeaway here immediately off the bat. If you think Tyler Glasnow is just going to find his way over to the Red Sox, I got news for you. That ain't happening. Tyler Glasnow is becoming one of the best pitchers in baseball. The Rays are going to be in it till the end. So I wouldn't hold your breath on that. But I also wanted to make another point on something you said that I disagree with. You said it's only a matter of time until the Red Sox cool off and the Yankees offense heats up. I agree. The Yankees offense is going to heat up. But the Red Sox offense is legit. Now, I'm not saying they're going to continue all year to be, the best offense in baseball. But they're good. And that's why before this season even started, I said, I like the Red Sox. I think their core is there. I think their offense is really good. And if they can get some pitching, they'll be fine. I don't see the Red Sox offense cooling off and not being good. Their offense is really good. And yes, the Yankees are going to turn it around and be towards the top of the division. But look, the Red Sox are good. And I'm glad you mentioned it. They are in a position to add somebody and be one of the best teams in baseball. They already are right now playing like the best team in baseball. Now, we both know if we're looking at the offense, and if we look at the pitching rotation, they're not the most complete team in baseball. Their pitching rotation needs help. Now, you mentioned Glasnow, which I disagree with, but here's what I don't disagree with. They're going to pick somebody up. They're going to get somebody. They're playing well. They're in a position to win. I could see them going out and getting a guy like Luis Castillo. If the Reds aren't in it, he's a piece that I for sure see getting moved. If they're not close in the NL Central come trade deadline, Luis Castillo is a piece that will be moved somewhere. And the Red Sox are a great fit for him. That's what they need. Their rotation is what's lacking. Maybe they get Chris Sale back at some point this year. That'd be huge for them. And as a matter of fact, I think they do get him back at some point this year. That'd be huge. Is he going to be the pitcher, we saw years ago? Probably not. But he's a big bolster for that rotation. And I do think they go out and add a piece. And yes, I don't think it's going to be Hader in the bullpen because the Brewers are going to be in it. But I do think your mindset is right. I do think the Red Sox are in a position to add pieces and be right there when the season is coming down to the wire. So thank you for your question. But don't be so hard on your team's offense. They're legit. Red Sox are legit. And it's going to be a good race in the AL East. So thank you guys for getting in those questions. Keep getting in those questions weekly. This is arguably my favorite segment of the show. 213-537-9339 to get in your questions, voice your displeasure, whatever it may be. So thank you again to you guys that called in this week. But now it's time for my 6-tool player of the week. This week, Francisco Lindor. It is no surprise Lindor has been disappointing to start the year. Look, I get it. I know it. He comes over, he signs one of the biggest deals in history for a shortstop, and he proceeds to hit under 200 for the first month of the season. That sucks, and I get it. But this past weekend, the weekend series, he hits a huge home run on Friday night. He proceeds to go 5 for 11 in the series, over, batting 450 something. I'm not great with math, but I'm decent with math. Hitting 450 something. But the home run on Friday night, a huge, huge home run for the Mets, but even bigger for Lindor. He was struggling. The city of New York knows he's struggling. Mets fans know he's struggling. But I promise you, nobody is beating themselves up more than Francisco Lindor. I promise you. And to see him Friday night hit that huge homer and walk out of the box and beat his chest rounding first, man, it got me so pumped up. It got me so pumped up. It was sick to watch. The energy, the passion, he gets home, he pumps up the crowd. That is why he is my 6-tool player of the week. And it's even sweeter because of how much he was struggling. I wrote about this for FoxSports.com. I've been there. Trust me, I have struggled at the professional level. I have, big time. I've been through the ups, I've been through the downs. I've seen guys go through the downs. It doesn't matter whether you're me in the minor leagues or Francisco Lindor in the big leagues. It eats you alive. Absolutely destroys you. It's all you think about. You take it home with you. An 0 for 8. An 0 for 4 turns into an 0 for 8, which turns into an 0 for 20. The next thing you know, you're hitting 180 for the month of April. That's not Lindor. Lindor's the best shortstop in baseball, arguably. If not the best, top 2 or 3. So this was awesome to see. It was absolutely awesome because I know the weight of the world was lifted off of his shoulder on that home run Friday night. Not only did it pump me up, not only was it awesome, not only was it electric, but the weight of the world was lifted off of Francisco Lindor's shoulders. And it was really awesome to see the success he had the rest of the weekend. And I really hope he carries it into this next week and through the rest of the season because he is so fun to watch. He's the epitome of a 6-tool player when he's going well. He's having fun. He's always smiling. Mr. Smile, as he's dubbed. He's awesome to watch. And that's why he's this week's 6-tool player of the week. But that does it for this week's episode of Flippin Bats. Thank you guys so much for listening. And make sure you're getting all those follows in on all social medias. The Twitter account is rolling. The Instagram account is rolling. Follow on Facebook. But please make sure you subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast and rate this 5 stars This has been so much fun, and this means so much to me. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you're getting in all those follows, and I will see you next time on Flippin' Bats.
It's a blowout. 8th inning, 10-3. Bases are loaded for Verlander, who waits on a 3-0 pitch. He swings, and it's a high fly ball, deep center field. It is gone! Home run! And a huge bat flip to celebrate.
Thanks for watching. If you love Flippin' Bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.